time and your time frame is going to affect your ROI, because you can't just run one ad and then expect to get like a 30% ROI. You're not being reasonable. You have to grow. You have to be in your potential audience, your potential customers' mind's eye. What do we usually say? 7 times? It takes 7 touch points before they recognize you. Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real. Welcome back, Chelsea, to another episode of the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. S.O.B as in small-owned business, not the other S.O.B.
Son of a biscuit, I think is what you say, Vivian.
Son of a biscuit, as we like to say around here. Yeah. So today's topic, we have a really exciting episode as far as from the marketing perspective, because I think this is kind of like the elusive thing that everybody has a really hard time gauging. And it has something to do with number and cents, but yet it also doesn't. Okay, so let me explain that. So today we are going to be talking about return on investment. And if you are a small business owner and you don't know what return on investment is, essentially it's supposed to be the tracking mechanism and formula that you use to be able to determine if your marketing initiatives are actually bringing in money, right? So the idea being, you don't want to spend $1,000 on a marketing initiative to get $5 back, right? That would be a negative ROI. That would not be good. And so today we're just going to talk about it because it's not as straightforward as I think everybody makes it seem, right, Chelsea?
Absolutely. I think a big thing that I hear from small business owners when we talk about ROI, for one, not actually knowing how to calculate it. And so we are going to talk about the equation in a second. But also, there are some marketing initiatives that you just can't put a number on. You can't put a return on investment on it. And we're here to say that's okay. You still should be collecting data. You should still be looking at your analytics, and there still are ways to gauge whether a marketing initiative did well or not. You don't always have to use ROI. If you can use ROI, we suggest it, but of course, if you can't, there are other ways to go about it.
Yeah. And I do think, to your point, that would almost be, I'm trying to think of a really good analogy. That would almost be like saying that the only thing in life that determines your success is financial wealth, right? Without giving any priority to relationships or anything else. And we all know as human beings that that's not necessarily true. We've all known some people that are doing really great financially, but are just really crappy people and are miserable, right? Because they let the other parts of their lives kind of go. And so very similar, to bring it back around as an analogy to ROI, that's kind of like what we're saying. Sometimes you can't gauge how good an investment is by the actual dollars that are coming in and registering, but it's more of a bigger picture of what it's doing for your overall brand. So there are some things that you just can't put, you can't put a dollar value to.
Yeah. I say we start by talking about ROI first, though. I do want to say what the formula is. So to calculate your return on investment, you're going to take your net income, which is your profits, minus the cost of the investment. So you're going to take your net income and divide it by the cost of the investment and then multiply it by 100 so that you can get that percentage. Now, a lot of professionals out in the world, if you look it up, they're going to tell you that a 10% ROI is your goal. Like that's a good ROI. I'm going to say something controversial. As long as it's
Ooh, I'm
positive.
here for it.
Well, like as long as it's positive, like you determine what is a good number, okay? If you get a 5% ROI and you're happy, then you're happy. That's fine. I don't know why we sometimes listen to these like professionals when they're just giving us random numbers. Like where'd they get
Yeah, y'all
10%
don't
from?
listen to professionals. Come
What?
on, just ask people off the street. Don't listen to professionals.
Well,
No, I agree with you, Chelsea.
you know what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah,
not.
and I think
Yeah.
okay, so a couple of variables that go into determining what a good ROI percentage is. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea's just given you the formula, and now what I'm talking about is what she just said, which is basically where are people getting 10%,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the reason she's saying this is because depending on what industry you're in,
Yeah.
that variable, what's good and what's not good, could range.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what medium you're using. And what I
Yep.
mean by medium is depending on which advertising avenue you've decided to invest in. So, for example, an ROI on a digital ad campaign is going
Mm-hmm.
to be different than an ROI on a radio campaign or an
Yep.
ROI on a direct mail postcard. And so
Yeah.
that's what basically you're saying is you can't, there
Mm-hmm.
are so many variables that you can't just across the board being like 10% is good. I
Yeah,
mean,
you can't just say, "Oh, across the board this is what you should be shooting for." Don't just make your small business and you know what you should be striving for. That's the ROI that you should be going for.
yeah. And I think too, what we don't give enough discussion to when we talk about a return on investment is depending on where your business is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say that you're just starting out, right?
Yeah.
And you're a brand new business. You might be more willing to take a lower ROI on some of the initiatives that you're doing because
Mm-hmm.
you understand that you're starting from scratch. The other part of it is these ROIs can sometimes vary based on if you've been doing it for so many years, right? So
Yes.
like if you've invested a lot of money in the same type of medium, the same
Mm-hmm.
advertising campaign, you obviously may get a bigger return on investment than someone that's like just coming out of the gate. And so I hope that makes sense.
That makes sense. The other day you and I were talking about it and you brought up the point kind of like what you're making right now. Time and your time frame is going to affect your ROI because you can't just run one
Yeah.
ad and then expect to get like a 30% ROI. You're not being reasonable. You have to grow, you have to be in your potential audience, your potential customers' mind's eye. What do we usually say? 7 times? It takes 7 touch points before they recognize you and are comfortable with you. If you
Yeah.
run one ad, you're not going to get a good ROI.
Fabulous point, Chelsea, because
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely right. That's exactly the thing is, and you and I have experienced this so many times where people are
Yeah.
like really gung ho out of the gate. They want to invest money in, say, some digital ads,
Mm-hmm.
but they're like, I'll spend $250 and I only want to run it for 2 weeks. Okay, well, the thing is, running a longer campaign is
Yeah.
actually better for you because it does start to develop more of a I feel like for one, you get more eyeballs on it and also
Mm-hmm.
it creates more consistency. And
Yeah.
so everyone should know if you're determining for yearly going into 2024, if you're determining what marketing and advertising you want to do for your small business, you are always going to do better if the campaigns are long term, right? Because of
Yeah.
that consistency. Now we understand that budgets may not permit for that, and that's where you pivot and you accommodate and do what you can, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great point. You're not going to get as much out of a 2 week campaign as you would out of a 8 week campaign.
So we're talking about ROI, return on investment. I feel like ROI is one of those phrases that can scare people. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't. For one, Easy formula. We already said it, net income divided by cost of investment times 100. Real simple. And it's honestly pretty easy to track if you set up the right systems. Now, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit later
Yeah.
about how you can't always track it, but when you can track it, it's going to be pretty simple.
Now, I'm going to say something controversial as a marketing person.
Ooh.
ROI is still, for me, a big hurdle because of the tracking part of it. And that's the whole thing. It's kind of like what we went back to earlier, how you have to find a way to, for the stuff that maybe isn't bringing in dollars immediately, you have to find a way to, in your mind, attach value to some of those those other benefits or advantages that you're getting from these ads. And so that's where the biggest thing and the first step that I feel like we need to talk about when we talk about return on investment, you need to know what your goal is.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Because you know what? Yes, you're a small business, and yes, your goal is to make money, of course, but your marketing initiatives are not always going to be about bringing in money.
Yes. And if you're wondering, well, what are you guys talking about? Like, that's not true. What we're talking about is there are sometimes that as a business, if maybe you're in the growing stage of a business or you're a little more mature, you're not coming, the first, I want to say the first couple of years that you have a small business, you are very much looking at driving revenue into that business because you have to pay the bills and you have to sustain and stuff. Once you kind of get in the groove and you have those things squared away and your business is profitable and you have a little more money to play with, you're looking at some of the initiatives that are really looking to build brand awareness because you're a little further along in that business journey. And what I mean by this looks like local sponsorships. Okay. So for example, you want your name during football season for high school, right? You have a good high school program in your town and you're like, I know it's a good idea for me to put my logo on their, what do you call it? Their scoreboard.
Yep.
All right. That'll cost you maybe $2,000. Well, how are you able to track the people that are coming in directly into your business from that scoreboard ad? You really can't. I mean, the thing is, you could, when they come in, say, hey, how'd you hear about us? And some people may say, oh, from the scoreboard. But similar to what you were saying, Chelsea, where it's now taking 7 to 8 touch points for people to actually make to purchase from you. They could have seen you in 3 different other areas, and then they just recently saw you Friday night on that scoreboard, your logo, and it reminded them. And that's what's, now they're finally coming in and trying your business. But, it's a little harder to gauge that. So I think that's where what we're talking about is if your goal with a marketing initiative is to build brand awareness, then it's more so about, hey, I want to look like my small business is taking part in the community and we're active, and football program is a big deal for us because we're healthcare providers and we wanted to show that we're supporting athletes. Whatever it is, there is benefit to it. It's just not attached directly to somebody walking through the door.
Absolutely. And can we talk about that? Not all small businesses are going to focus on making money. Some of them are going to focus on the community and sponsorships and stuff like that. Let's think about your local YMCA. If you saw a bunch of ads from your local YMCA, that would turn you off, right? That would be weird. But seeing them at all your community events, seeing them as sponsors at all of these other events or charities or stuff like that, that's where the YMCA is most, I don't want to say profitable. What's a good word? It's where they shine. It's where they're supposed to be. They're not specifically there to bring in a bunch of money. They're there to support the community, and that's why they're going to focus on sponsorships and community events and those marketing initiatives that you can't really track ROI.
The interesting part about that is you're really bringing it back to what a business's mission and vision are. And
Mhm.
so, as a small business owner, I guess that's where, depending on what your values are as an organization, there
Yep.
are things that you can be doing from a marketing perspective that, like you're saying, it's not going to be directly tied to profit, but it's going to be more so tied to showing people what your business is about, right?
Mhm.
If you're a children's clothing store and one of your values is that you support children in the community, then that's going to look more so like sponsorships, like getting in, supporting programs that are supporting the children, X, Y, and Z. And yeah, that's a really great point. Do you love making crafts and working on your small business but struggle to get them in front of customers?
Do craft fairs, events, or pop ups leave you feeling overwhelmed or frustrated?
Introducing Rock Your Fair, the course designed to help you succeed in the world of craft fairs, pop ups, and events, created by two marketing professionals with over 15 years of experience. Rock Your Fair is perfect for anyone who's new to the game or just wants to step up their game.
Our step-by-step approach will guide you through everything you need to know, from choosing the right events, to setting up your booth, to marketing your products effectively.
And you know what? You'll also get access to us for personalized coaching and feedback so you can put your best foot forward.
Do not let craft fairs, pop-ups, and events hold you back. Sign up for Rock Your Fair today and start rocking your way to success.
For a limited time, get access to our free mini course. Simply head over to our website at www.theseasonmarketer.com and click on workshops.
Well, Vivian, we're having this conversation. ROI is kind of hard to track. What should small businesses do when they can't track ROI? They still want to know if their marketing initiatives are going well. Is it worth the money that I spent? What suggestions do you have?
Data is still going to be where it's at, because the
Yes.
point is, maybe you're not able to track the dollar that's coming in, or you can't tie the dollar that's coming in through the door directly to that particular marketing initiative, but
Mhm.
you can look at the other analytics and data. So every marketing initiative that you're participating in, let's say it's digital ads. With digital ads, you want to be sure that you are looking at impressions,
Yep.
click through rates, and all of that. And so the better it does in those analytics, that's where you're going to know that you have like banger ads out there, that they're,
Mhm.
they're good, and that you need to keep doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that I want to remind people is ROI and data is a really great way for you to do a couple things. As a small business owner, your marketing plans
Mhm.
and strategy should vary year to year. And the reason that they should is because you should consistently be looking at what works and what doesn't work. So, for example, if you have the data and the metrics and you're comparing things and you're like, the last couple of years I've been doing billboard ads, and yeah, the billboard company sends me approximately how many eyeballs were on it. I
Mhm.
always have a really weird hang up about these companies giving us impressions for stuff like that, because I'm like, what are you doing? Like counting how many people, they can give you like
Yeah.
roundabout
Yeah.
numbers based on traffic, but it's not
Mhm.
going to be like I'm not super
Yeah.
confident in those numbers, right?
Yeah, because like,
So
okay, those
the
are the
thing
people
is,
who drove by, but like, did they actually look at your billboard? And if they looked, did they actually like comprehend the information, or did they just drive by? I have a weird thing with billboards just to begin with. I'm not a huge fan of billboard ads because I feel like it's so hard to be really effective with them. Like, you have to be short and sweet. And if you can't do that efficiently and effectively, then it's going to be a lot of money that probably was wasted. My opinion.
billboards are great for awareness. They're great for awareness. They're also great for directional. So let's say you
Mm-hmm.
have a Chick-fil-A. That's why Chick-fil-A uses them. You have a
Yep.
Chick-fil-A that's 2 miles up the road. If people are on the interstate and they're traveling, a billboard on the interstate that says Chick-fil-A 2 miles, exit 190,
Mm-hmm.
is really great, because you're going to get the traffic off of there, right? And
Yes.
so it is good for directional stuff. I think
Mm-hmm.
it is harder, you are right, to be succinct on a billboard and to make them effective. The one thing I will say is this: I've always wondered about this.
Okay.
Unless you are in a big city where there is a lot of traffic and people
Mm-hmm.
sit in their cars for a while, why are y'all putting QR codes on billboards? I don't
Thank
know.
you. Thank you. Because no one's going to scan that in the
Like,
0.2 seconds that they're driving by.
yeah, or you're going to be creating wrecks, which I
Yeah,
do not
well,
condone that. But
exactly.
there could be an argument for if you're living in a really big city
Mm-hmm.
and there is known traffic a lot of
Yeah,
times in the morning or in the evenings and people are bumper to bumper. That's a little different because you
yeah.
would have the time and you could
Mm-hmm.
potentially have people scanning it. But
I
if
think,
if you're in a place that doesn't have bumper to bumper
yeah.
traffic, a little questionable.
I think this is a good example of me just needing to remember that there is a time and place for different types of advertising.
Yes. And so let me bring it back to why I initially brought up billboards. So what I'm
Okay.
saying is, let's say let's say for the year, I had tried some billboard ads.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the year, I'm looking at all of the marketing initiatives that I did, and I know my data, right? And I have
Mm-hmm.
numbers attached to it. For some of them, it's going to be direct ROIs because I am able to gauge exactly how much money a particular ad on Facebook brought in,
Yep.
right? Let's say I attached it to my actual store, right?
Yep.
Online store. And so I can see this particular ad that I spent $500 on actually brought me in $2,300. Now I have to subtract from that 2,300 the $500 I spent on the ad and
Mm-hmm.
also the hourly rate that I paid my graphic designer to put that together. So let's say that
Mm-hmm.
cost me 250 extra dollars. You're now out 750 total to run that
Mm-hmm.
ad, but it brought in whatever initial amount I just said, what,
Yeah.
2,500 or
I
whatever.
think you said
And so
2,500.
you're in the positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then you're in the positive, right? So for that particular ad, I know for a fact it was effective. It worked. It
Mm-hmm.
brought him money. I see that very easily. For the billboard, it's not as easy to track and it costs me more money. Let's say I spent $7,500 on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, it was good for brand awareness, but I feel like I could probably be more effective in omitting that
Mm-hmm.
7,500 in billboards and dumping, let's say 25% of that money into digital ads that I know for a fact are converting people.
Yeah.
Then I think that's what I'm saying is every year you should be looking back retrospectively and changing up your game plan for the next year based on the data you have. And so
Mm-hmm.
if one of the initiatives is just not doing as well, well, either take that money, reinvest it into the stuff that is doing well, or take that money, a portion of it, and actually try something new.
Yeah.
Try a new advertising thing you haven't done, right? So try Hulu Ads Manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
Try TikTok advertising, whatever it is. If it makes sense for your business, try it.
Yes. We want you to try new things when it comes to marketing and advertising. We just want to make sure that you're also tracking all this information because if you're just throwing money at something and hoping that it works and you're not looking back at it to see if it worked, then what are you doing? You're just throwing money away. You need to make sure that it's working. So then you can either, as you were saying, take that money, invest it into something that is, or try something new.
And let's also talk about how it also requires a little bit of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. For example, if you're saying, Vivian, I am never going to be able to track how much this physical ad in this magazine that I'm doing is bringing in to my business because I don't have like a coupon or anything attached to it.
Yeah.
Back in the day with newspapers, what people would do, so interesting, banks, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Back in the day when banks would take out ads, they would actually do something like cut this out and bring it in, and you get like a free lunchbox. You get like a
Yeah.
free whatever, right? And they would
Mm-hmm.
do like branded material. People could come in and physically get the branded promo material.
Mm-hmm.
I think they used to do like toasters or something crazy like that. Yeah, but so here's the thing, that was a way for them to track,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How many people were coming in from that newspaper ad. Very similarly, just think of it differently because now we're mostly digital.
Mm-hmm.
If you are putting an ad in a high gloss magazine and you're like, well, I don't want to make it cheap. I don't, I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell them bring this coupon in. Do a promo code. Okay.
Yeah.
Do something like that where it's like, hey, if you spend $1,000, you get $150 off or something, but you have to use this certain code and have that code be specific to that particular ad that you've put
Mm-hmm.
in the magazine. That's a good way for you to be able to track. I spent $2,500 on this ad in this high end magazine. Did I get any sales from it?
Yeah.
Or another way to do this creatively, you don't want to attach it to sales, do a specific landing page,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like you give them a particular URL to go to, and you guys can use these URLs now that are, it'll create a short like marketing
Like,
one that's easy for
yeah.
people to
Uh-huh.
remember. That's the thing, is you can easily put up a landing page that then for a fact the only thing feeding into that landing page is somebody from that ad that's
Mm-hmm.
seen that ad. So it's just, there are ways to track it. Is it hard sometimes? Absolutely, but you
Yeah.
got to get a little creative with it.
Yeah. I do want to say, and this is going to sound obvious, but I feel like sometimes we might forget to do this. For each campaign, you need to create a unique way to track it. So if you're going to create a promo code, don't use the same promo code across all of your marketing initiatives, because that's not going to give you good data. You're not going to be able to tell then if they're coming in from your Facebook ads or if they saw your TikTok post or stuff like that if you're using the same thing across the board. So you need to create a unique promo code or a unique landing page if you're using landing pages for each of those initiatives. And I know that may sound like a lot of work, but if you want good data and if you want to be able to confidently say, I know that this came from this initiative, then you're going to have to do that.
Or you have to be willing. Let's say you create one landing page and you're going to use that landing page for an entire campaign that you're doing. Now, this campaign, Chelsea, they're going to do 3 different things, one of them being like digital ads, print ads, and direct mail pieces.
Okay.
And they're like, we only want to create one landing page.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using the same landing page, what you have to do is you have to go into the back end analytics and you have to see where people are coming from.
Yep.
Okay. And you can do this, but what it's going to look like then is, for a fact, if it's coming from the digital campaign on Facebook, it's going to say it's streaming from Facebook. Okay. It's going to say that person came to that landing page from Facebook. If it's from the print ad, then it's going to tell you that somebody legit typed in the link that you shared with it. If it's from the other ad, so that's what I'm saying is it just makes it a little more cumbersome on your end. And so think of the way you function best. If what Chelsea's saying, if you're someone that just wants to be able to at a quick glance pull the information, then you need to be sure that you're creating separate stuff for these. You can use the same landing page. You just are then going to have to do extra work to be sure you're looking at, where it's feeding the stuff from. But
let's do a recap of this episode because we brought a lot of different points up today. So let's just go back through them. Return on investment, ROI. That's calculated by your net income divided by the cost of the investment multiplied by 100. That way you can get a percentage. What is a good ROI? A positive number. Some people say 10%, but it's really going to depend on your industry, how you run your small business, what type of advertising you're doing, the length of the advertisement, how long you've been running this same type of marketing initiative. All of those things will factor into your ROI and will change your ROI.
All right. The biggest thing is tracking the analytics. Even if you can't tie it to a dollar amount that's coming into your store, you want to be sure that for every marketing initiative that you have out there, you are collecting analytics, whether that's, the reach, the click-through rate, the all of that stuff, impressions. You want to be sure that you're getting that type of information so that then every year you could go in and compare to, which initiatives need to stay and which need to go.
And remembering that the goal of your marketing initiatives are not always going to be to make money. Sponsorships, community events, that sort of thing is about brand awareness. So you're not going to use ROI to track the efficiency of those things. That doesn't mean that those things are not important. They are still important. It's important for you to get out there and to be a part of your community, especially as a small business.
Yes. And so I will reiterate what you just said. The most important part to all of this is when you start a marketing initiative, in order for you to be able to appropriately track an ROI, you have to set a goal for that marketing initiative first.
Yes.
So know what specifically you want, what outcome you want out of your investment in this particular marketing or advertising to promote your small business.
At the end of the day, we want you guys to feel comfortable with return on investment, ROI, with analytics, with looking back at your marketing initiatives and saying, yes, this campaign went really well. I should do this again. Or looking at something and saying, hey, I need to make some changes. Maybe I'm not even going to do this one anymore. Maybe I'm going to try something new. As a small business owner, it's all about playing around and finding what works best for your business. Just remember, analytics is going to be the most important thing for you. It's going to be your best friend. Vivian, is there any other thoughts that you have?
I think that's it, Chelsea. I think we've covered everything when it comes to that.
Perfect. Well, I just want to say thank you again for listening to this episode. If you have any topics that you want us to discuss, you're just really struggling with from a marketing standpoint, go ahead and email us at help@theseasonmarketer. We will gladly answer any questions that you have here on the podcast, or maybe just individually if it's a personalized question. Go ahead and make sure that you are following us, subscribe, like, share this podcast with all of your small business friends, and go out there and be the best SOB that you can be.
Small owned business, not the other SOB.